Hey friends, Christy here with Little Roots Ranch and the turkeys. And today, look at my tomato plants. Today we're going to talk about pruning and what is pruning and why is it important, and a live demonstration on how to prune. Now I do want to say, and this is really important, is that before you prune, you have to know if you have determinate or indeterminate tomatoes. And the reason why it's important is because you don't really prune determinate tomatoes, whereas indeterminate tomatoes, you do need to prune. The reason why is that determinate, much like the name would suggest, only grows to a predetermined height. And so if you're snipping off all of the lower branches, then you're gonna snip off your potential fruit, and you don't wanna do that. So when it comes to determinate tomatoes, you just wanna pick off all of the branches up to the first flower set. And so you may not have that yet on your plants, depending on how big or not big they are. And so technically, all of the leaves that are on there already, you might be getting rid of all of those, but you wanna wait till your plant gets a little bit bigger. For indeterminate plants, like our model here, which actually, I can just see the smallest of the first bud set. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll bring you closer soon to get a better view. But basically, this is an indeterminate tomato. And as you can see, there's some branches hitting the ground, which isn't ideal. And I still need to trellis it. That's definitely not ideal. Don't be like me. Don't be a bad person like me. But basically, you might be asking yourself, if you're a brand new gardener, why do we prune? And there's several reasons. And one of them that's especially important in the Pacific Northwest is we don't have the heat to support it. And also the tomato or the plant can't support all of the branches. If you were to not prune, if I were to take this tomato plant and not prune it at all, what I would have is 4 feet by 4 feet, so bigger area of just sprawling, and I would end up with a lot of green tomatoes, a bunch of them actually, but they wouldn't ripen, and I wouldn't have, I'd have to pull them and ripen them in a bag in like October or whatever. And so you want to know so let me backtrack for a second. Pruning is something that is really easy to do and sounds really great and gets away from you as the season goes on. So it's really important to stay on top of it, because once it gets out of control, it gets really out of control. But you have to first determine how many liters you want your plant to have. And so for me, I only want a single liter. That means that I want to grow one stem. So I'll take this terminal bud, which is right here, terminal growth area, which is the top of the plant. I only want one, and I'm gonna make sure that that continues. If I were going for two, I would take actually be right through here, right after the first flower set, I'd let one of those nodes grow out, and then I would have my two. But I only want one, and so that's what I'm sticking with. I've seen that you don't want to have more than 4. I've never tried 4, or at least not on purpose. But yeah, and then so you want to cut off all of the other branches, and especially what they call suckers. Now, suckers, when you have your trunk of your plant and you have a branch, right? And so it grows kind of like a V. A sucker is what grows in the crotch, which would be right in between my elbows, basically. Sometimes on heirlooms, it'll grow a little bit up the trunk, or a little bit up the branch, but basically it's gonna be what grows in the V. And so it's not gonna be readily apparent at first, but then it will, as your plant gets bigger, it'll start to develop. And all of those are basically new trunks. And that sounds great, because usually, my turkeys are crazy. Usually you want a big plant, but with tomatoes, it can get overwhelming, and then you increase your chance for disease. And also you have to be able to support all of that, not just with trellis, but yeah. So in order to so I'll start with this one here. I think you can see right here, this is my trunk, this is my branch, right? And then you see this right here? See that guy right there in the crotch? He comes out. So when he's small like this, they call it pinching, because you literally just pinch it and it comes out real easily. And you can actually grow a new tomato with this. That's something, if you had a lot of tomato loss and you want to do new plants on the fly without purchasing them, you could get, you know, make your little container or whatever pot and just stick that in the ground, and odds are the plant will grow. Sometimes they don't always all make it, but odds are it'll grow. Tomatoes are excellent rooters. And so you can just plant that. But this would have grown into a whole new plant, because it would keep growing, and then because it's a sucker, and this sucker will grow other suckers that'll just keep growing, and that's how, left alone, you'd end up with a huge plant. But what you want to do is you want to go through at least weekly and get all of your suckers, especially where they're small and they can be snipped off, and it's not hard for the plant to recover that. If you look at this plant, each crotch has one. So I just grabbed this one. So this was the first one we did. And then there's this one. I guess I can put them up. Can you see my leg? Yeah. There's that one. And then basically, here's this one here. I haven't pruned these yet at all or pinched any of the suckers. Here's another one. And here's another one. And here's another one. This one, a larger one, would be better for, what's it called? For if you're trying to replant it. And you just keep going down, pinch that one. And you just want to make sure that you're getting all of them. And sometimes they get a little bit larger. Like this one here got bigger than I would have liked. I wasn't on top of it. But see, that one would be, you can see it against my shirt, I think. That one would be an excellent one to plant, because it, you know, or to root, sorry. You just put it in, make sure the soil's nice and moist, and put it in there, and then it'll grow into a plant. I don't need more plants, so they're gonna go to the compost pile. But that's basically what it is. And then while you're in there pruning, like you can see this leaf right here, or maybe you can't, but it's actually touching the ground, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pinch that one off too. This is just a branch. And I've already trimmed, when I planted this, I planted it deep and horizontally, if you remember that video, but I already pinched off all of the lower leaves. And eventually I will prune the first, like, basically to the first flower set, which is right here, which is at the top. So I'm gonna leave them for right now. But when this plant is about double the height, I'm gonna clear the first 1 to 2 feet of all, or at least 1 foot of all of the branches. But I'm not gonna do that just today, but I'm gonna start slowly by taking off the very bottom ones. See, here was a sucker that's getting pretty big. And see, it's starting to get its own suckers. If you can see, I don't think you can, but in both of these crotches, there's little tiny little buds that are starting, and those will be suckers on the sucker. So take that one out, and then I'm also gonna take off. The plant's gonna lean now because I need to trellis it, and the one sucker was actually holding it up. But you see, that one was touching the ground, so all the insects are getting on it, the dirt's getting on it and all that stuff. But then then I'm left with this beautiful plant. And so the leaves are still a little low, but just because I just pinched it today, I'm gonna wait till next week, and I'll probably take off the 2 bottom branches, and then come and get any of the suckers that grow in the next week or so. But basically, you go through and you do that with all your plants. This one's a little smaller, but even still, it doesn't take that long. I'll do this whole plant while I'm talking to you. And if you wait too long, they will get really big, like I said, and turn into whole plants, and those plants will have flowers, and you may be tempted to not pinch them because you'll want more fruit. But the thing is you won't have fruit that's viable, and you'll have a lot more really small fruit that won't ripen in time. And so in that time frame, I pinched off all these suckers from the, what's it called? From that next tomato plant. So I'll bring the camera to a better angle so you can see me do the next one. And then, yeah, so just one moment. Okay, so I've got this plant here, And you can see, you can't really see it, but there's a teeny tiny little growth right here and growing out of the crotch. That'll grow really big. So I'm gonna pinch that off. I think you can see it, but get that one. And you see over here, there's this one right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pinch that one off. Also, just a heads up, your fingers will turn like blackish color. But you see right here, there's two of them, one right here and one right there. So I'm gonna get that one and come over here and get that one. And see up top here, there's this one here. And so I've got all these suckers plus the other ones I already put down. And let me turn the camera around. And so it's pretty easy, but that's how you prune all the suckers on your tomato plants. And again, that's important so that way your tomatoes don't become out of control and disease ridden, and they can focus all of their energy on putting it into delicious tomatoes that you can enjoy all summer. Thank you for watching and happy gardening. Bye.